just to get started, why'd you ultimately choose D'Anton Lynn to be the next defensive coordinator?
Yeah, Carter. Yeah, first, thrilled with the hire. It was a fun process to go through, just to see the amount of attention around this position, the amount of interest. Got a chance to visit with some.
Because I know that school districts have a hard time funding.
Got a chance to visit with some of the best defensive minds in the game, which was a great experience, and a lot of people that were very interested in this. And so, yeah, it went well, went smooth. It was I think certainly had an advantage in that having that late bye week. There were some challenges with that, but that was also obviously one of the advantages was it allowed us to get a head start. And I think the key was like not having to feel rushed with it. And this college.
Oh, Lincoln, you cut out there for a bit.
Stood out to me from the first conversation that we had, and just his vision for obviously the job he had done at UCLA, his vision for what this could be here, and I think you're looking for people that are going to come in and make us better and add to us day one by walking in the door, which he checked that box, but also people that have a shared vision of USC, what this program means, what it can be, what it needs to continue to climb. And we were just very, very in sync that way from the beginning. And it was tough to ignore just his, the pedigree. It's tough to ignore the NFL experience. And then I've had a first look at the job that he did, along with the other coaches and players there at UCLA this year. And the jump that they had defensively was important. And I think that a benefit of, obviously this was somebody that I had studied, and you could really see just the key differences. I think he's a rising star in this coaching profession. And just every conversation that we had, I felt more and more like this was the guy that we really want, and this would be the best possible outcome. And so, obviously wanting that and getting that done sometimes are two different things, but was obviously really happy that this matched up. And I went into this thing with the goal of bringing the very best here, and I feel like that we've done that, and just fired up to get started with him.
Shotgun.
Hey, Lincoln, how much did seeing Danton's defense in action and the way it was able to stop your offense play into making him a desirable candidate?
Yeah, I definitely used kind of every little data point or experience, personal contact, anything that I'd had with any of the candidates. But yeah, I think certainly having an ability to see, defensively from 2 years ago to this year, and some of the, key changes and adjustments that he made was helpful. I mean, it was definitely impactful. It certainly wasn't the sole reason. But I think it was just one of the advantages in the evaluation of him. And, that was largely the same group of guys. I mean, there was very few players on the field in our last game this year that weren't on the field, for our UCLA game the previous year. And so, yeah, you see the impact, and you see the confidence of a guy that, left the secondary job at the Baltimore Ravens to come call it, knows he belongs. And they just obviously then you'd start diving into coaching philosophies, to recruiting philosophies, development of the kids. Obviously the evaluation piece, certainly when you factor in getting ready to go into a new conference and facing new opponents, and at every step of the way, it just continued to line up.
Derek?
Hey, Coach. Derek Togerson, NBC in San Diego here. Wondering, since the Holiday Bowl obviously being down here in San Diego for a long time has been a great recruiting grounds for USC. You go back to Reggie Bush and Junior Seau's of the world. Can playing in this game help maybe get even bigger footprint for USC? How does it help having that kind of impact when you come down here and play with the recruiting aspect for a town as good as high school football as San Diego is?
Yeah, absolutely it can. And I think it's important, for us, and that we're getting to be able to play the game here in our home state. As you said, playing the game in an area that historically has meant very much to USC football. And so we certainly can't let that opportunity pass us by. And I do have a lot of respect for the bowl. One of my earliest memories was coming up here and with the Texas Tech team and actually beating Aaron Rodgers and Cal and those guys in a great Holiday Bowl. And it was to this day, all the different bowls and big games, all that I've been able to coach in, that's still one of my favorite memories, one of the best memories. And so I think there's certainly a personal side of me that's excited that was the choice, and I think we're again playing in the home state, playing in an area that we have a ton of respect for. As we continue to build this program, it's an opportunity that we need to recognize, and we need to be ready to take advantage of.
RJ?
Hey, Lincoln, how much philosophical and how many nuts and bolts practice changes do you anticipate having to make as you guys build up this defense?
Philosophical changes, there'll be a lot. This is a very different system than what we were running previously. This is a system, as I started diving into it, not just necessarily with Coach Lynn, but kind of with all these candidates. There was a few kind of non-negotiables, at least on my part, a few things that were really, really important, and they matched up with Coach Lynn, especially with the defensive front, especially in terms of the evaluation and development of size on the defensive front and how we want to play there. There were a few things that were really important to me, and Coach Lynn's system certainly fits that. Not just fits that, it excels with that. So I think from a philosophical standpoint, we're going to strip it down to and we're going to teach. We're going to develop in a different way to make sure that we fit exactly what we want to be defensively. And Coach has a great thought process and a great plan for that. And obviously parts of that will be happen on the practice field. Part of that's going to happen in the weight room and your development program. And obviously pieces of that are going to have an impact on who you're recruiting, your evaluation process. And so those were all parts of the conversation leading up to it, and it all match up very well. From a practice standpoint, we've had some pretty good talks about that. That's not necessarily at the top of the list right now, but we've what I told Coach Lynn is my mentality going into it is we're going to do everything that we can in this program to accelerate the process of us playing great defense at USC, and whatever it takes to get that done. From a development standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, from the way that we practice, everything here is going to be done with the defense in mind first. And so we've had some good conversations about, I think, overall general practice structure, and I think are on the same page of where we're headed. And then certainly as we get closer to spring ball and we start to dive into what more of the specifics will be. We're excited to work together to do it. And again, it's always the edge here is always going to go to what's best for our defense.
Luca?
Hey, Lincoln. Just curious, what was their conversations with Danton on, changes around the defensive staff, around bringing in, a staff to fit his kind of vision? And do you anticipate sort of significant changes with the staff that you currently have, guys like Dante, guys like Sean Nua, what do you sense as far as the future of this current staff?
I think some of that will play out. We've certainly, had conversations about the staff, both, the current guys that we have, which I think highly of a lot of those guys and their skill sets. And then also, what are the needs of this current staff with Coach Lynn in charge defensively, and what could that potentially look like? And I think there's one goal in mind here, and that's kind of our North Star right now. That's the thing that we're staying focused on, is building the best defensive staff in America here. And for me, I'm not getting too caught up into, is it somebody that's here now? Is it somebody that's not here now? It's just, to me, what is the best? And that answering that simple question. And as long as wherever the best is, whether it's somebody here or somebody outside the program, that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to build. And yeah, that process is, along with a lot of other things right now, is certainly ongoing, and conversations and decisions that'll be made here in the upcoming future. But I don't have anything new to report other than that is our sole mission, and that's what we're going to stay focused on, and that's what we're going to do.
Ryan Karchi.
Hey, Lincoln, with the portal opening today, what would you say is just the general approach to the transfer market for you guys this offseason? And when it comes to quarterback, I know USC's already been sort of connected to several transfer QBs that are already out there. If the plan is to bring in another quarterback, what do you see, or what does that mean for Malachi and Miller in this situation?
Yeah, Ryan, I think general philosophy in the portal right now, I mean, we're certainly going to be targeting a couple of positions in the portal. I think it's going to continue to taper down, and that is, kind of been our goal, from the beginning. I mean, even looking back to 2 years ago, as we started to map it out, I think goal one here was starting to establish some culture and some winning ways, and then I think building a roster that could be competitive in the first couple of years, and that could give yourself a chance to win and to win championships. And then there's a bigger picture, a picture that's more zoomed out, which is I think kind of starting to gradually work towards building the program in a more ideal sense. And that for us is getting to signing full high school classes, developing the guys that we have in-house, supplementing here and there with portal guys, and then going on. And I think we'd certainly like to get more in that direction. And I think we have trended there. We will continue to trend that way. And if we can keep bringing up high school classes like this group of true freshmen that we have right now on campus, then it's going to be a really positive thing. Specifically as quarterbacks, I mean, we're looking at it. I mean, my goal right now is always to have, multiple guys in the room that you feel like are starter level guys that you feel like can really compete. I've been super pleased with Miller. Talk about him first. Just in his development. Very, very excited for the way that he's progressed, and I think he's been really, really strong here as the backup the last 2 years, and I think has gained a lot of momentum. I think he's really improved as a player. I would like to have been able to play him a little bit more here in the last couple of years. But the opportunities that he has had, he's played well, and he's moved us well, which is, I think, no surprise. So I fully expect him to be in the mix, no matter what happens. Malachi's obviously a young guy. He's got a world of talent. He's working hard. He's had a few physical hurdles that he's had to overcome, which has not been it hasn't necessarily been maybe the smoothest of years, and a lot of it out of his control, just trying to get back healthy where he can train and develop to the level that he wants to, and we all want him to. And he's certainly going to get there, and certainly has a bright future, and has really battled for a lot of things. So we're eager to get him back completely healthy and back where he's developing on a really fast track. And I don't think he's that far away from it, but that's still been a little bit of a process. And yeah, I mean, we're gonna look in the portal at some quarterbacks. We'll see how that thing unfolds. I like the guys that we have in the room, but I also, you always have a responsibility to the team to continue to look at, potential, people that could come in and make our room better, make our team better. And so, not ready to say that we would for sure do anything. We're going to take a look and evaluate and see how it all unfolds. But excited for those guys. I'm obviously excited for their opportunity upcoming.
Thanks.
Ryan Young.
Hey, Lincoln. Could you expound on the non-negotiables you had in talking with candidates? And you mentioned size of the defensive line. What needs to change in that regard? And are there one or two specifics that are going to be different with this scheme that you could share with us now?
Yeah, I think the size and style that we play up front was I think certainly number one for me. I think that I'd really two of them. I think size and style of the way we play up front was one, and that's philosophically, that's evaluation, that's development, that's scheme, that's everything. And then I think the second piece was really, for me, was, I wanted a coach that had displayed and showed the ability to, to really adapt well to the personnel, that the coach, that schematically was strong and schematically had the ability and wasn't so tied into one thing that, there's kind of two trains of thought, right? You got your scheme and you just build everybody and you kind of force feed it to be what you want it to be, or you have your scheme and it's got the ability to adapt to that given skill sets in a certain week or matchups in a certain week. And I know somebody that had that the creativity, I think somebody that had the ability to adapt their systems to, what you may have, because these rosters do change so much and the matchups do change so much every week. And I think the more of a mindset of just getting the best 11 on the field, in any way, shape, or form, and what does it take that game and that moment for us to play the best defense possible. And that's those were the two in terms of on the field play. Those were the things that were the most important to me. You can go win in any scheme in football that you dial up, as long as you can match up what's being coached, what's being developed, the right people, the right players, right, all of that. There's a lot of schemes that make sense, but who can adapt it? And that's where I thought Coach Lynn really stood out.
Thanks.
Jack?
Hey, Lincoln, kind of want to go off topic to yesterday. It feels like nearly everyone, including a bunch of coaches, have had a pretty passionate reaction one way or another to the final college football playoff rankings. Curious, what was your reaction to the committee leaving out Florida State for Alabama? I know the decision doesn't really affect you guys directly this year, but could set a precedent going forward for what really matters to get a playoff spot. So I'm curious what your reaction was.
Yeah, I haven't been in that position a number of times where you're sitting there on Sunday morning after the championship game and gotta wondering if you're going to get in or not. I know how those guys felt. Fortunately, the majority of times that we were in the discussion in my career, we were able to get one of those spots. I don't know that I've had the pure heartbreak side of it that Florida State would have had yesterday. And yeah, you hate it for them. I mean, but I think my reaction to it would be that's why we're changing the playoff. Is exactly for situations like this where, if you win all your games, you should be in the playoff. I mean, there's nothing more from a winning standpoint that you could do. And the hard thing is the matchups, the non-conference schedules, the conference schedules, who you play, all that is so different that it's a really tough decision for the committee. It's a really tough decision for, how do you value some of these different teams and value, wins versus quality wins, and having one loss, even though a quality loss, like I just, it's an impossible situation. So no, I hate it I didn't like it for the game, because I do agree if you win all yours, you should be in it. Now going forward, once we expand, obviously that's, probably not going to be an issue anymore, which is one of the reasons we're doing it. So probably a good reminder and reinforcement for all of us why we're making the changes we are.
Antonio?
Lincoln, do you anticipate having Caleb Williams play in the Holiday Bowl or no?
No, he's not going to play.
Thanks.
Dukney?
Caleb, or sorry, Lincoln. Hi, Lincoln. We're a few years into the NIL era, a few years into the portal era. How have you seen the conversation about NIL grow in terms of influence year over year as you're speaking to players in the portal?
It's just different for every kid and every family. And there's some kids and families where, it's a really important piece, or some where it's not. It's certainly become somewhat a part of recruiting, but it's become also another kind of evaluation point for all of us too. And so, yeah, it's definitely evolving. I mean, certainly having a strong NIL program is critical. I mean, you have to have it right now. Now there's a million different ways to use it. There's ways I think that are productive and great and what it was intended for. And then there's certainly there's some of the opposite going on as well. And so yeah, listen, it's an important part. You try to you want to, it's kind of a balance, right, where you want to be very competitive there and put your program at an advantage. And it's important for us to continue to do that here at USC, but you also, it's not the only thing, and there's still a lot of other things that are important. And I think it's gotta happen in sync with the other values of your program. And if not, I think that's where things can get a little bit messy. So yeah, it's certainly a piece of it, the way it stands right now, and it's something that, you know, every coach and every school in America is certainly dealing with.
Thanks.
We have time for two more. We'll go with Mark.
Good morning, Coach. I think it's safe to say that the running backs have hit the ground running since the end of the regular season. Where are you planning to go with the quantity of running backs for the bowl game? Is Austin Jones going to be available? You answered about Caleb Williams, but if Austin doesn't go, are you safe with two true freshmen for the Holiday Bowl?
Austin is going to play in the bowl game, so we'll play with Austin and Joyner and Amari and Peterson, and so we'll have those three guys available. And yeah, trying to take advantage, especially with those young guys, of a little bit bigger runway here that we've had for this bowl game. I mean, it's going to have been, by the time we get to the 27th, it's going to have been a long time since we played a game. But it also has been a nice advantage in that we're going to be able to bank a lot of practices and a lot of work for those guys, which is obviously it's important for this game and getting them ready to play this game, but then also obviously the added benefit of just their development in terms of the future, because both those guys got a bright future here. And I could say that about a lot of positions. I mean, there's listen, we'll have a handful of guys that don't play in this game. And the excitement for us is that means there's opportunities for a lot of guys. And now that this game doesn't count in the red shirt rules for some of these players, it's going to be an opportunity in a lot of ways for these guys to really step up. And in some ways, it's kind of, you almost feel like in a way it's kind of halfway the last game of this year and kind of halfway the first game of next year in some ways, and a tremendous opportunity for these young guys that are pretty exciting behind the scenes. So yeah, that's been our focus, and excited to continue to develop them and then start to get ready for the game here in a couple of weeks as it gets closer.
Thanks.
And we'll wrap it up with Scott.
Coach Riley, you guys had to hit the portal last year pretty heavy for offensive linemen, but you brought in some talented guys in your last recruiting class. You're bringing in, some talented guys in this recruiting class. One guy might actually be ready to play year one. But where do you see you guys, looking as far as offensive linemen in the transfer portal this year?
I think, Scott, we'll be less reliant on it. And you said it. It's you still feel the hole here in this program of really almost 2 straight years with really, very little in terms of kind of the young ability, young depth in this program that you're developing behind the scenes, that like all of a sudden you look up and these guys starting to become pretty good players. Now we are extremely pleased with the freshman O-line group this year, their development. There are several guys in that room that are like ready to play now. And that's pretty exciting. And there's a lot of talent, and it's a really tight group. And so, yeah, I kind of like I said about the entire freshman class. I mean, that room is an example where it's like we keep stacking up the quality of talent in that room, like that freshman class has, the quality of people in that room, like the character, like that's what you want it to look like. And it as you take like a guy like an Elijah Page is a great example that, wasn't ready here at the beginning of the year. He's gotten a lot of reps throughout the year. He got a lot of reps on scout team throughout the fall. And then all of a sudden you get into these bowl practices and you're like, oh, okay. Like this guy's been, training hard all fall. He's been doing, kind of our developmental lifting. He's been going against the first team defense every day, and all of a sudden you throw him back in our stuff here in bowl practices. It's like, oh man, this guy's made a move, and we've got a number of those guys on both sides of the ball in that equation. So with all that being said, I think because there's the young talent that is going to be ready sooner rather than later, it puts you in a position where kind of for our first time here, you feel like we're going to be a little bit less reliant on it. I think we'll still probably look to bring in one guy there for sure, possibly two, depending on how the rest of the class shapes out. But it's that room is a great example of kind of how we have maybe been forced to build it in the beginning because of where this thing was when we started, versus how we want to build it and kind of what we want to transition to for a more long-term approach. And it's kind of fun to see that starting to take hold.
Thank you.
You're welcome.